All right.
Better point it the right way. There we go.
All right. All right. We're starting with Entity Mastery Lesson RFR Edition. What does that mean? Well, that means our friend and colleague Daryl, who has his own mastermind, Entity Elevation, and has a class of a bunch of people that he teaches a bunch of stuff to. And so one of the things that we're going to talk about today is how to utilize, I'm going to say, G sites and schema. Now, we do have a little bit of a schema maker within the G site factory, but that's only if you have G site factory. So if you just are making G sites and you want to learn about how to add schema to your regular G sites that you're making, then this will probably help a lot, as well as for those of you who have the G site software. So Daryl, how long have you been doing this?
Oh man. Well, I've been in SEO since 2009, full time since 2015. But I've been an IT double certified IT pro since 1989, so that's really dating me. But yeah, it's been quite a while.
I think we did our first baseball card on eBay in the early 90s.
Oh
When
yeah.
whenever eBay first started, we were sitting there with a light box. We made our own light box, and put our cards in there with this camera, shitty camera, and that's kind of like how our journey started with all of this as well back in the day, right?
Yeah,
So,
fun fact from I think it was around 2002 to 2007. I actually worked for eBay.
oh,
When they had a center that they set up in Vancouver, BC. They closed it several years later, but I had left by that time. But I used to be in the fraud investigation team, so we were the ones who would take down like spammy uh, scammers and
they were they had them
all
back
the Ni
then.
Nigerian scams and all that sort of thing.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
that's too
yeah,
funny.
yeah. It
That's
was pretty
great.
interesting. I used to work graveyard shift, and at the same time, because it was so quiet, you could kind of work on other things. So that's where I started to get more
Very cool.
involved in some of this stuff. But
Very cool. Very
yeah,
good. Well, today
preliminary
we're going to
stuff.
have some fun.
Hmm.
So, if anybody has general questions about schemas, type them in now. We'll get to them later. And anything specific that you're talking about as we go through, we'll just kind of bring up the subject and answer the question when people have them.
Sounds good.
All right, it's all your show. Let's go. Let's
Thanks,
wrap it.
guys.
Let's go.
Okay. Thank you guys so much. Hey, it's really good to be here. This is something we've been trying to put together for, well,
Long time.
probably since like late June. Yeah, it's kind of crazy, but we finally got connected. So I'm happy to give back. I mean, really, it's been a situation where the ranking store and Patrick and Gary and just everyone that's been involved with like Chris and even going further back with some of the other support people and everything else. It's been a very positive relationship and collaboration. We use the Ranking Factory tools, many of the different tools on a daily basis within our agency. It's part of one of the core things as part of our processes, and it's just really baked in. So please don't go away.
Oh, we're
Um,
not going anywhere.
Yes, please don't. Good stuff. So today we are going to spend some time together going into advanced applications of schema markup specific to Google Calendar events, Google Drive collections, and G sites. And we're going to go into detail on two specific schema templates that you'll be receiving. So I'll be providing these to you as well. I've been in the SEO space since 2009, and along with Jimmy Kelly and Russell Wright, launched Entity Establishment Basic and Mastermind back in 2018. Can't believe it's been that long. I'm the originator of many methodologies like Surge, schema mirroring, schema cascading, entity syndication engines, RSS dataset schema, and many more. I like to just click on the slides, so it's okay. I don't, if I put them as the full screen, I
Nah, we're
inevitably
good.
have to close it down again. Today, I continue to teach a mastermind inside of Entity Elevation with Clinton Dixon. and work with Russell and Kaylin Wright with their super intelligent AI SEO ecosystem. Also with Eric Ebrock Christopher, who helped me break out of the corporate rat race in 2015 and go full-time in SEO. Tend to be on the unconventional side and contrarian in testing and methodologies, if anyone has spent any time in our group, as many of you may know. But
That's for sure.
otherwise, let's just have some fun today. Yeah,
You like to break things, don't you?
yes, very much
Mm-hmm.
so, including your tools.
Yeah, I know.
As Chris will attest. But he's been awesome.
Absolutely.
He fixes stuff pretty quick.
One of our
So,
better finds.
oh yeah, absolutely. Don't let him go. That's for sure. So a lot of the stuff that we do and a lot of the things that I teach revolve around entities, and at its core, we have to ask ourselves, why build and optimize an entity? What's the point of all of that? Depending on your level of knowledge of what an entity is, um, it's really where things have evolved to and will continue to evolve from as AI gets more mature, and the different types of um, iterations of search and generative search and all the things that are coming at such a rapid pace. But essentially the goal of entity optimization, you can synonymously swap the word brand there as well, is to present and control the target data, target meaning brand, person, place, thing, presented to Google to allow Google's AI to digest and determine the outcome we wish to achieve with as little variance in the probabilities of choice as possible. And this allows you to achieve a massive advantage. And the schema is one of those mechanisms which allows you to tilt things in your favor, per se. It's also one reason why the RFR tool sets work so well together and across multiple areas that serve to feed the engine. If you do this correctly, you achieve a brand and query synergy. One example of this would be a knowledge panel, for instance. And this is kind of foundational to what we're going to be talking about. But I have to assume that, we have to kind of establish a baseline. So when we're looking at the different aspects of an entity, and this is actually a very simplistic distillation. The actual diagram is very, very much larger than this. But essentially, just to understand what we're trying to achieve here, we have various aspects of what your entity or brand represents and the areas in which you demonstrate relevance and expertise to Google's AI, not just Google. But we have several aspects to this. So we have things like your personal, which includes social brand, what Google determines as you, things you contribute to, entities of association and contribution. So these are either validated and vetted trusted sources, or they're things that you might produce on your own, which can then become part of those types of circles and different repositories. Quality sources of information you belong to or contribute to, curated sources of information, trusted established seed entities, things, all of that plays a part. And you can think of these as individual lenses. And when you first start with entity optimization, these will have a level of focus. So they may be very out of focus, where you can see in this situation, the circles are very far apart, and there's a small zone in the middle that we call the confluence. And that is where the data starts to achieve a synergy. So it starts to allow you to achieve that relevance and the synonymous relationship that Google understands that you actually do represent that query better than any other choice. And I'll remind you that these processes you employ with RFR, BLF, PLI, and so on take advantage of the concept, and as evidence in Google patents that prove this is correct, of multimodal content consumption. I call it multi-entity relational vector, MERV for short. What that means is different forms of content for the AI to digest and process as it seeks to understand a topic or query. And like I said, the Ranking Factory tool sets work very well in helping you achieve this by the types of content that we're able to produce and also optimize. And what we're doing is we're seeking to saturate Google with all instances that are valid as they pertain to a query or entity or topic. The better job that you do this, you then achieve the confluence. You're taking these lenses and you're focusing them, and you achieve what we call a confluence. And that's a synergy of data. Your entity is synonymous with the target topic or keyword. And how well you focus the data points determines how strong of a confluence occurs and how quickly you solidify these key data associations. So some of the work that you will do with these tools help to move in that direction and be efficient in terms of reducing the time it takes to produce this type of result. So all that being said, let's dive into some of the things that we have here. So let's talk about event schema and how this correlates to calendars. I love these images. I just produced them through ChatGPT and DALL-E, and it's kind of funny where you'll go through several versions where it'll just completely spell things wrong. And then you're like, okay, forget it, remove all the text, just produce me the image. But let's talk about event schema for Google Calendars. So one thing that I will draw your attention to is, and if you're not paying attention to this, or if you don't use schema very often, it's one thing that tends to get a bit neglected. But what I recommend is spend some time on Google Search Central. So it's developers.google.com/search/docs/appearance/structured-data. And under the feature guides, these are often a good starting point to understand what some of the do's and don'ts are in terms of what you should be doing with your structured data, what Google wants to see, what it recommends you don't do. Now, of course, there's a big asterisk beside that, because or you will know that I tend to break a lot of these rules on a very regular basis. But in terms of best practices, we're going to start here. And a lot of these do get updated on quite a regular basis. Let me just move this Zoom thing here.
Hey, Daryl, can you take that link and pop it in the chat at some point in time so people can just go to it? Not right now.
Yes, I will do that right now, actually, so I don't forget. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
There you go.
Awesome. Thank you.
So if you see, the last time this was updated was just on October 31st. So there were a few things that that did get changed in terms of what you should do. Now, keep in mind, this is in terms of whether you want to generate a rich snippet. And I tend to fall on kind of two areas where I'm using schema for a specific purpose. One is if I'm actually trying to generate a rich snippet. So if there's something that I'm doing on the site specifically that I'm trying to enhance search results. If I don't care about the rich snippet so much, that's where I'll be a little bit more of a gray area. And I'm just trying to use it as a data aggregator, a data set, something to focus some of those data points where we can utilize that schema collection in a different way. But for what we're talking about today, we're going to kind of align with what's going on here as a starting point. So I'm not going to look at the chat too often, Patrick. If something comes up, then maybe just let me know, but I'll look at it more sort of towards the end, or it'll be fairly disjointed.
I'll let you run unless there's a question somebody has, and we'll just answer it right there.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. So just keep in mind that I'm going off of some of the more recent updates that happened on October 31st. Um, we keep an eye on this pretty carefully, and we will go in and update our templates, and just anything that needs to be adjusted or changed or enhanced. That's typically when that gets done. So for the version that I'm going to give you guys today, this is very much current. This is something that I just put together last week, in anticipation, until my power went out. we were going to meet last week, but this is current as of right now. So essentially, what's new now, that like I said, this is in terms of what's going on with Google developers. They've given us more clarity on rich snippet qualification and what is recommended to do and not do. And the following schema that I'm going to take you through takes advantage of the recurring events inherent to what you're building inside of Calendar Stacker Factory or the RFR v2 calendar application, or any Google Calendar with recurring events. But of course, it's much easier to use the tool set because no one wants to build that manually if we don't have to. So how do we use this and why? Well, this schema presents an opportunity to organize the data set created by your recurring calendar events, including the attachments on set events. And if you're not using the attachments to their full realization, then please make sure that you spend some time learning about and how the how the tools have been trained by various folks, Gary primarily, but there's a lot of potential there. And going beyond this, I spend a lot of time in things like syndication. So we use RSS a lot. There are additional functions with some things around PDFs that I hadn't planned on showing today, but maybe we could do some of that another time. But there's vast power
I
in
think we have all
the
day,
stuff you've
according
already
to my
got.
calendar, Daryl.
All right. So let's have a look at the guidelines. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because to me, this is very white hat sort of vanilla stuff. But it's stuff you need to be aware of because depending on your purpose, you need to know what the rules are before you decide to push and or break, rather than just not knowing at all. So we'll look at the guidelines and then the updated template and the changes that have been implemented to be more aligned with the event criteria. And I've just kind of listed the takeaways here rather than us having to go through this whole thing. But you certainly can and should go through some of this just to be more aware of what's going on. So obviously correct data in event schema markup. So specific dates and times is best. This is easy if you're creating the recurring events already, but set an arbitrary end date, even if it's perpetual. What they don't want to see is start and end dates that are kind of forever. You want to have something more concrete, and you can always come back and adjust this. So I tend to do like a rolling 90 to 180 days, and then I'll come back and I'll adjust the schema at that particular time. So we set a reminder and come back and do that. It is a little bit of a pain in the you know what, but it's an easy thing to do. And we've updated and added key items in the event calendar template to align with current criteria and also in the new area on schema.org. So there's a section on schema.org. If you're not familiar with this site, this is another very critical site that will help guide you in your schema learning. But there's a whole section in the back end of schema.org that is dedicated to proposed features and features that are not yet fully approved. And we call that the new area. But often, I'd say, I don't think I've ever seen it not, when you go and you check on Google's rich results tool or the schema validator tool, they are recognized. So we prefer to be ahead of the timeline whenever possible, so we will use a lot of those things, and that's reflective in the template that we're going to go through today. So similar repeating event consistency, since the focus on generating a rich snippet for events is on a single event, consider aligning your calendar builds to that singular most valuable term. So this will be a little different than what you might be used to with calendars that have multiple events per day, and they're all different titles, they're all different focus. This would not be the candidate to use for your rich snippet. If that is my goal, then I build a calendar around a singular event or a singular topic, and I use that as the master. But with the calendar stacker, that makes that easy because you can break that into multiple calendars. So you can stack them and use that master calendar for the single first topic as that first calendar. So everything else kind of stacks to that. Okay, but you're not going to mark up those additional calendars with schema. Only the first calendar is going to get the schema. And don't worry if all this is like, oh my God, I have no idea what you're talking about. We'll get to it. And calendar event or title considerations. So I recommend to hybridize your event title to avoid being strictly keyword, service, and area. And I know this is different than what you might be used to, but we're talking in terms of generating rich snippets and staying within sort of the happy zone that Google's not going to get upset with us. Excuse me. So where you might have done something previously, like roof replacement Indianapolis, what I would replace that with would be something more conducive to a real actual event. So something like roof replacement Indianapolis community Q&A, or roof replacement Indianapolis online Q&A forum, or daily daily FAQ, or something that is more logical in terms of, okay, why is this roofing company hosting a daily event? What is this actually for? But still get your keyword within the title. Okay, so how does this change for what we do for calendar events and schema? Well, we integrate the title considerations. We have the similar repeating event consistency, correct data in event schema markup, offline versus online events. So there's an indication within the schema template where you can indicate whether this event is online, so like a virtual event, or if it's offline. I prefer to use offline wherever I can because the offline designation allows you to include a subsection called place. And place allows you to integrate all of the location and geo information that correlates to your GBP, where online does not. So it's a distinction that you need to be aware of. Okay. Excuse me. The technical guidelines, the target page must contain structured data items from event types on schema.org. Each event must have a unique URL and markup on that URL. So think of like an inner page on the website that's dedicated to that particular event. It does not have to be, though. It could be a service page that has the calendar where there's a subsection dedicated to that event. So there's a couple ways to do that. Then the event experience on Google. So this is what the event experience is all about. Only supports pages that focus on a single event. We recommend focusing on adding markup to your event posting pages instead of pages that list schedules or multiple events. So this would not be for a page where you had like 15 calendars embedded. We're looking for singular focus. Okay, so the main things to avoid in terms of marking up calendar events: avoid marking non-events as events. So don't promote non-event products or services such as trip package San Diego 7 nights as events. And the same goes for what we talked about regarding the title considerations. So make this more conducive to what may be seen as an actual event. Okay, so let's look at the actual template. Now, for anyone that's not familiar with schema or what all of this actually is, what I typically do with this is I will present the template. And one thing I will just, before I release this to you, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make, I usually will make notes so that you have an indication on what each line is for and what to put in each line. So if you're looking at this and going, what the hell is this? I have no idea what I'm supposed to do here, here, and here. Well, we're going to make sure that you have that. On the other template, I've already got that ready to go. So you can see what I've done here, where this will give you exactly kind of a step-by-step. I just have to finish this on here because I've made one little change this morning and I scrapped the previous version, but that's okay.
So
So
Daryl,
yeah,
you said this is a template.
yes, it is.
Okay. So for those that aren't aware, what do you mean by a template in what way? Is it like 97% done? You just have to go change a couple things? How is it going to wrap around everybody's brain to be able to implement what you're talking about?
So this is a framework that validates inside of the structured data testing tool. So it's seen as a valid schema structure around an event. And this is structured in terms of how a calendar would present a recurring event. Now, of course, everyone is going to have their own unique implementation. No two calendars are the same. So that's where you would come in here and you would insert the values that are specific to your calendar. So you would have, whatever organization is behind the calendar, whatever that local business is, their website URL, the start date and end date of the calendar, the geo information.
Mhm.
So all of this information would be customized. And that's why I say it's a template, because it's something that you would make specific to you, to your application. Does that make sense?
Yep, but it entails everything that you have built into the template so that when they do fill it out with their own data and information, it will be, perfect and will pass the test of no errors.
Correct. Yes. And I'll show you that exactly how that works just quickly here. So if you go to this page, and I'll give you this link, structured data testing tool, and then it comes over here. So there's two versions and they both have a different purpose. So the schema markup validator is used more for testing your code. This rich results test is the newer version. And this is specifically, you can test your code, but this will also tell you, does this generate a rich snippet in search? If you don't care about rich snippets and you're using your schema for another purpose, like data aggregation or etc., I typically will use this right-hand one because that's the one I typically care more about. But you literally just paste it in there. So you can if your schema was installed on a page, you would do fetch URL if you wanted to see, okay, is it actually being picked up? Can it be read? And is it valid? Are there any errors? But if you're just testing code as you're going, then code snippet is fine. You run the test, and this is what you're essentially wanting to see. You want to see, okay, yes, it shows up as event, and there's no errors, no warnings. And I find this is a nice way to present this. I like to do my edits directly in here,
Mhm.
um, but just be careful if you're not used to this or um, maybe it's I don't know, for whatever reason, maybe you like to do it differently. Like we do a lot of things in Notepad++ or Word, but I like to do it directly here because each change I do, each single change, I can click and revalidate. So if you make 15 changes in your Word document, come in and paste, and you get an error, um, depending on your level of experience, you may be like, okay, I don't know which one of these caused the problem. And now I've got to walk it back and I've got a whole bunch of extra work to do. But just be aware that if you do it here, each time you make a change, update your working document so that if there is something that goes wrong, maybe, and Google Docs are good for this because of the perpetual save nature. If the power goes out or something happens, whatever, browser freezes or something, then you don't lose it. But yes, that's essentially what you do here. Okay.
Someone asked privately to me, what's a rich snippet?
A rich snippet is like an enhanced result on search. So like events will show up. We call these rich snippets because they show up with, generally they are a very special additional way to show up with media, photos, like different things. They're interactive, and different types of media and content can show up in different ways. Like job posting can also is one as well.
Do they
Um,
usually show up towards the top of the search or bottom, or does
a
it
lot of them
anywhere?
do. Yeah, a lot of them do, but
Okay.
it
Could be
can
anywhere,
also
right?
it can be anywhere. Yeah, it can be anywhere. Um, the position 0 results, people also ask. A lot of that, like, I don't know if you've ever seen like the great big huge video result
Oh,
that
yeah.
can show up at that's another example of a rich snippet.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's another way to enhance your search results beyond just the typical website and GMB, GBP. It's one of the reasons why the search process was built, because if we're creating multimodal content, which means content that is beyond one specific thing, so video, audio, image, map, the whole thing, RSS syndication and then some of the other things like the Google properties. Um, all of those have the potential and often do show up in multiple ways on search. And that's what Surge was created for, was to saturate a query, and the RFR tools make that infinitely easier. I couldn't imagine having to do that manually.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't think I would even bother, but um, yeah,
Well, you're going to add the link too, so don't forget to do that. You were on a page, said you're going to give everybody that link, so.
yes. Let me just grab this for you. And we're going to get more into like the practical, doing stuff here. So there we go.
This is a weird question. Of course, it's from Scott, so it's okay. If my event is a birthday or anniversary gift item product, like maybe a wine box that's custom made, that was an advertisement for Scott. In theory, could I have 365 schemas as per the date of the celebration? Just asking, or would you narrow it down to January birthdays?
Um, I would have no problem doing the larger implementation, but I would recommend, for ease of management, to narrow that down. Um, if you're not used to or you're not experienced in dealing with very large templates that have a lot of nested uh, subsections and things like that could develop into, sometimes that can be very difficult to manage. So I really recommend keeping things simple, where it makes it easy to action and implement, but it also makes it easy to update and manage. So I would be leaning towards the January birthdays, if
Thank
that
you.
helps. Yeah, good. Okay. Yes. Okay. So where are we here? Yeah. So um, as we go through this, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this piece per se, because we've got quite a bit of stuff to actually do over the shoulder here. But when I provide this template for you, basically it's going to help you understand what to put where. So, calendar description, who's behind, what entity is behind the calendar. You'll be inserting a lot of this data. The start date and end date, and this is something that in tandem, and this again goes back to how much experience you have working with schema, but it's helpful at the same time when you're working with these things. So because this is an event schema, I don't know why this is so slow. This has been something fairly recent, but as you're going through this, there are guides to specific pieces. So one thing that you'll want to pay attention to is the date and time guidelines and the format. So Google likes very specific values here, including time zone and time offset. So that's why in here, you'll see that we've incorporated this. So this is like January 1st, 2024, 9 a.m. in the morning, but it's a GMT -8. So that'd be like a Pacific time zone. If it was Florida, then it would be 5. I hope that's right. And the real power in integrating some of this into what you're doing already with your builds, especially the perpetual nature of the calendar, is you then have the ability to integrate the place schema. So every time that event is hitting, and Gary's talked about this before, where every time a new event comes out, it's essentially fresh data. And I agree with that. Excuse me. But it gives you the opportunity to tie that to your GBP. So you're always creating and solidifying that connection to your entity, but you're also structuring the data in such a way that it makes sense and it correlates to the same thing that Google understands for your GMB. So we utilize under keywords, we utilize the categories. We have the image, we have the information that is already populated within the GBP. So that's where this comes from. And under additional type, this is where you have the opportunity to also use the plus code. So if you don't know what I mean by the plus code, that is literally just copying and pasting from here. So if I were to enter whatever, that is this guy right here. And you literally just copy and you would paste it just as is right here. Now, the other piece that we've integrated here is identifier. And this is where you can integrate the machine ID that's attached to the GBP directly into the schema template. So this makes that connection. And where you get that from, excuse me, is I'm using the Plepper tool. It's not the only way to get this. You can also get this through their page source, but this makes it easy to see. And it's right here, knowledge graph ID. So I literally just copy that.
Is that the free version?
That is free, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, under the Chrome Web Store. You can just literally just pop it in here. Geo coordinates, we just take this directly from the same source. So make sure that is aligned. So it's right here. So this makes it very easy to come in and grab all this data, right? Excuse me, one moment. And as we move further down the template, we start to break out into the different topics and categories that the calendar is touching upon in terms of how this relates to your GBP. So this is where I have 4 iterations here, and you can add or subtract as needed. Each section is self-contained just like that. So if you only needed 3, you would just delete one. And don't forget, you can also use ChatGPT to help you validate. So if you're not used to doing any sort of this coding work, you can very easily just say, hey, ChatGPT, here's my template, here's my information. Can you help me populate this correctly and remain error-free? And that really speeds up the implementation. But I like to integrate the GBP categories in each one of these at type in each one of these things, because that allows you then to integrate another description, and same as, so this is This is correlating to like Wikipedia, where it has the definition of that GBP category.
So,
So
Daryl, here's an interesting question.
sure.
For the people that you're competing with, how many of them don't actually complete the actual services, for their clients, under the GBP? And then secondly, virtually of everyone that you're going to be competing against, in your opinion, how many of them do any type of scheme at all?
Very, very few. And it's a very it's a very sad situation because, and this goes into kind of the argument where you'll have certain folks that and sometimes this comes from either SEOs that maybe don't understand or just
Well, they're
couldn't be
afraid of
bothered
it.
or
Some of
whatever
them are
that might
afraid
be,
of it,
right? Well, I mean, yeah, I mean it's coding, and it's a different type of situation where um, my point is, and going back to what I said before, that the better job you can do to focus the data points that you want Google to pay attention to in terms of your particular brand for the types of queries and categories that you want to be synonymously known for in the area that you do. So it's like um, the what you do, where you do, how you do it, when you do it, how much you do it, all that sort of stuff comes into play. But um, that's where utilizing schema correctly gives you a massive advantage that the other competitors often are not taking advantage of either at all or in a very incomplete or insufficient way. So if you don't have to do a lot, and that's the thing, it's not like, oh my God, I have to go through my 53-page site and suddenly generate 400 different schema templates. It's not that at all. Um, Often it's having a very good quality homepage schema, making sure that, and this goes, I should probably mention this too, is schema is not the first thing that we do. You want to, but as a default, make sure that you have your foundational work in place. You want to make sure that your site structure, your site optimization, all of the basics are dialed in well. Because if you apply schema to a what I would call a broken site, you can actually make it worse. Because what data points are you trying to focus? Things that are not optimized or incorrectly optimized. Um, you can
Good
introduce
point.
things like a term that I coined a long time ago called entity pollution. Some of that is integrated with incorrectly implemented schema. So putting, let's say, under same as, saying my entity is the same as, and you list 15 different competitors. It's like, well, no, that's completely not correct. And now what you've done is you've created this muddle, uh, and yeah, lots of wild things can happen from that. So please don't do that.
Mhm.
um, that's just one example, but really, you don't need a lot. Homepage, a good service schema, um, uh, the RSS dataset schema is one that's extremely powerful. But we'll get there. It's nothing that we need to do today. But simple things like this, where if you're producing a series of calendars and you're backing that up with the structured data that's specific to that calendar, but then also coming in with a secondary action like some traffic, some CTR, um, head and shoulders above what competitors tend to do. And that's what gives you a real massive edge in local. It's when you do some of these powerful things and you don't need to be doing tons and tons of it. But it's kind of akin to, back in the old days, it's not so much old days, but when you're doing link building, and we used to always try to go after the big .edus and .govs and um, some of the big links that were relevant at the time. Kind of say that tongue in cheek because a lot of it still is.
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
But my point is, you're making these bigger moves on a smaller scale, so you're being more efficient. And then it's what you actually do with these properties rather than I need to make 50 of this and 100 of that. It's in a lot of cases, I'll do one of something, but it's what you do with that one thing. And schema is one of those things that helps you amplify that one thing.
So
So I'm
Mike is
sorry,
asking,
it's a huge answer, but it's a big
yeah.
topic too.
Mike is asking, should we add this schema as an embed to the first calendar in the stack and also, I lost it, in the event pages on the website?
I typically add it as an HTML. So I'll embed the calendar on an inner page on the website, and then the schema will just be in a block as an HTML underneath the iframe. It doesn't play specifically well inside of a calendar iframe, but there is another way that I'm going to show you how to use this, and this is also very relevant for Google Sites. And that's something we're going to do sort of in the next section here. But that's essentially what you're going to do, and that makes it easy. So you're going to embed the calendar on an inner page, which if it has a singular focus, that is conducive to what Google wants to see for the rich snippet. And then the calendar schema just goes as part of that page.
Okay. And
Okay,
so one last question, which I'm
sure.
sure you're sharing the template for people to understand that you're going to be sharing the template with people afterwards, so they have a copy of the template, correct? Yeah.
Very
No, we
much so.
want everybody to remember exactly what we're doing.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And I realize,
Cool.
like
Thank
I
you so
said,
much.
we've got a whole broad range of experienced folks in all of these groups. Some of you may be new to schema. Some of you are very advanced with schema, which is awesome. But for the folks that need any clarification or anything after, um, I'm very happy to assist with any questions or whatever that might look like. And it can either be in whatever Skype group you want me to do that in, Patrick, or
Mhm.
you guys can contact me privately. It's no big deal.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
It's all good. Yeah. Okay, so that's essentially what's going on there. And like I said, I'll have a full description on kind of how to build this out correctly. I wasn't going to do it during today because it can eat up an awful lot of time. And I think the way that we do it with the description makes it quite a bit easier. So that being said, let's continue to move along because we
Are
have,
you using the highlighted points there for the things that need to be replaced?
yes,
Okay, cool.
yes, everything that's in bold with a little arrow,
Yep.
this is me making a note.
The URL or the folder, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Fill in the blanks.
Yes, essentially.
Yep.
The only thing I will say is what I recommend is creating another version of this. So have this as your kind of working
Template.
sort of guide. Create a second version where you've removed all of this because this won't play well with the validator, and get
Right.
rid of all of these with the little arrow before you either implement it on the site or
Right. Right.
put it inside the validator because it'll generate errors. Okay, let's move on. We've kind of barely scratched it today, so let's keep scratching.
Hey, you're down to 25. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, in our mastermind, I'd actually just crossed 1,000 slides in my deck,
Oh,
but
wow,
that's
really?
that's coming up 4 years of content, so it's been quite a bit. Okay, so the next thing is schema for Google Drive folders. So this is one of my favorite things. Google Drive folders as an embed are very powerful. They index, they rank.
Mm.
A little less recently, but they're still very, very useful. And one of the things I love about Google Drive folders is the fact that So much can be done with them. So much can be contained within them. Um, you know, the Google Sites, obviously. Um, but don't forget what's happening when you're using the multi-layer aspect of what you're doing within those individual properties. So it's not just inside of the Google Drive folder that you have the individual items. It's also what's happening on those individual items, like the Google site having the embeds, the PDFs, having other assets integrated, Google My Maps with the different layers and all that goodness. We use that in a specific way inside of what we do with our RSS syndication. But as a simple next step for you guys, well, it's never that simple, but it's kind of simple. um, there's a way to very easily enhance what you're doing with those drive folders as it pertains to not just a Google site, but specifically today for a Google site. So, you know, I'll talk in terms of how we do things internally with things like our surge process, and Google Drive folders play in very prominently to that. The Google Drive folder gets embedded on the Google site that we set up for Surge, and there's a single link from the site to the target. So everything essentially is safely buffered by that Google site, where the site becomes the repository for everything that we build. And it becomes a very powerful link that serves to power up whatever we point that to. And of course, we run traffic through the whole thing. But one thing that we have started doing more is actually integrating schema more directly on the Google site. And one of the easier ways that we've found to do that is um, coupling that together with the Google Drive folder code. And this achieves several different things, but essentially, if you want an easy way to enhance the embedded data sets on your Google site, well, then enter the collection schema. So collection works well because by the nature of what's happening with that Google Drive folder, you will typically have multiple types of assets inside. So you'll have things, typically, you know, you'll have your Google site, you'll have maybe a My Map, you'll have sheets, docs, PDFs, images, you know, on and on, right? Collection is very useful because it allows you to not only, excuse me, wrap the Google Drive folder in schema, but it also allows you, by the nature of how I've designed this, it allows you to individually mark up each one of those assets that's contained within the folder. So that also means the Google site itself. And it's pretty wild what it allows you to do. So this schema allows you to associate the individual assets you create inside of a Google Drive folder with your entity/brand. We designed this as an array, or also known as an @graph implementation. So what that means is this template has multiple values nested within its sort of master structure. So it just means many things inside of a single template, rather than having to have 5 or 6 different separate schemas.
Okay, I got to stop you for a second.
Yes.
There's
Are we getting out of
39,
hand?
there's 39, no, there's 39 people minus two, you and me. So I want 37 people to answer me this question. Before you saw this, and if you've seen him in his mastermind, before you saw it in a mastermind, of the 39 people and minus two, that's 37. How many have ever even seen, thought of, dreamt of what you're hearing and seeing here today? Give me a zero if you think you've never seen this before. This is absolutely off the charts. You couldn't even afford to pay for this if you had to pay it. You know, from an individual perspective for a mastermind group, I mean, holy sugar. Wow. Wow. Okay. Carolyn said, or Andrew said it. Holy shit. Yep. Mastermind. Blah, blah. All right. So Dude, this is awesome. Thank you so much. Wow.
Hey, I'm happy to do it. Thank you so
I'm
much,
getting
guys.
goosebumps.
This is just level one stuff as far as I'm concerned. There's so much more that we can and I think we will do. Um, but we have to have a starting point, right? And I know this is probably a little bit of a big starting point, but um, I didn't want to just come on here and say, hey, let's just talk about local business schema and here's a template and see you later.
Yeah, no, this is awesome. I knew where we were going with this when you said you were going to do it. So it's amazing.
And you know, none of the stuff that I
That's
teach
for
and
coffee.
do is nothing that we already don't use within our own framework and agency and our, you know, the GStack rankers, although it's now rebranded to Entity Elevation Marketplace. This is all integrated into the stuff that we actually do. So it's not a bunch of BS. I don't know why I had a double slide here. Sorry about that. Okay. Yeah, I've
Oh,
had a little too
oh.
much coffee myself, but that's okay. So let me just start by, let me just get these meeting controls out of the way. Excuse me. Let me start by just showing you um, now this is a Google site that I use. This is a local business not too far away from me. They're not a client, which I think I probably should have gone and talked to them because I've been using them for about 3 or 4 years for just examples and tests and everything else. But they rank like crazy. Um, but here's what I'm talking about. So this is not a representation of how we actually build a Google site in terms of how we would do it for like Surge or DFY, but we um, we have a lot of the elements on here that um, not only serve for things like tests, but um, you know, it's examples of things that we can do. You know, this is literally just placeholder complete kind of crap here, but this isn't even them. This is just something that we've done. My map, image, calendar, Google Drive folder. I mean, you guys are already familiar with all of this.
Mhm.
But what you might not be familiar with is, um, Danny, no, it does not have to be. What you might not be familiar with is, so this is an embed of the, literally of this, you know, of the actual map listing. But if we scroll down, we have other information here. So we have keyworded hyperlinks. These are all H3s. This links brand. This is a branded link to the long link of the maps listing. So one thing to keep in mind, this is actually a very useful link to use. But just be careful if you do this, because if I go to the very end, just be aware that Google attaches a timestamp to it, and you don't need this timestamp. So what I typically do is I will either remove it from here and use that, or I will also remove this piece as well, and the question mark. And that is the link.
That's the raw link.
Yeah, that's the raw link. So that's what goes in here. But there's more. So this is where we're able to get away with some of the stuff. Now, if I do a test, and let's go just kind of raw to the tester here. And this time I'll do a URL, and it'll work with either one of them. So either the home or whatever, but we'll just do the home today. If I run the test, so with any Google site, you're going to see this web page. This is very much a placeholder. I find it very funny that their own schema generates an error. um, but this is just placeholder stuff. But collection is being picked up through the iframe of the map embed. So in the background here, you'll see what I've done. So this is where we have our collection schema. Now, the first question, the kind of default question is, well, you have this embedded inside a property that isn't matching what the schema is actually about. This is a collection about a Google Drive folder. And yes, that's correct, but I don't care. My purpose of doing this is was finding a way where I could nest this inside of an iframe that would play nicely with the code. And the fact that the Google Drive folder is on the same page as the schema is good enough for me. Now, some folks might not like that, but we've had no issue with that. So, you know, you've got it on the same page, and that's kind of the thing with schema is one of the big no-nos is, you know, don't mark up something that actually doesn't exist. So a good example of that is, you know, sometimes you'll see like a Fiverr provider or some whatever provide you like a 65-page local business schema for your homepage. And 64 of those 65 pages is page after page after page of just made up crap, like awards and different accolades and contests and all this junk that has no bearing. It's just completely BS. And I have actually tested that, and it was a complete disaster for the site every single time I tested it. If you want to tank a site very quickly or screw up their entity, and potentially get manual penalties, then be my guest, but please don't do that. So you can see it's pulling this data directly from the iframe. This is a collection. So and we have several things. So this refers to the Google Drive folder. This is the URL to the actual Drive folder. And now this is the pieces. These are the pieces inside the folder. So you will add and subtract as you need, but has part. So the first thing is website. This is the Google site. Then we have a map. So this would be the My Map. This is the spreadsheet. So this would be a Google Sheet. This would be a Google Doc. This would be an image, you know, on and on and on. But it allows you to completely wrap up everything that you've got going on inside of that Google Drive folder. And then remember that this then serves as a potential additional element that you can utilize in other ways. So you can use this inside of like an RSS feed or you know, other more advanced applications like CTR, where it's actually interacting with elements inside of the iframe. So there's tools like Babylon Traffic is one where you can specifically come in and indicate like a CSS selector or different elements where you can say, okay, come in and actually click and then continue your journey and do other things. So it's very powerful, the potential. And having the schema present as the bot flows through these properties, there's a concept that we refer to as cookie loading. It's very powerful. It sculpts the journey that we want to emulate a real user to have taken through our site and through our assets, through our referring properties as they get to the target being either the GBP or the website that's attached to the GBP, terminating at a page where it would make sense to have a conversion. So when we do CTR, you know, we tend to be creative on how we get there, but we always end up at a page that to Google, it would make sense to spend that final browser session on, where it's either a contact us or somewhere with a phone number or whatever that might be. That works extremely well, but going totally off the rails here. So
well, Craig is asking, you know, this is in the minds of people who aren't really familiar with what you're doing. it's like a PhD. And so Craig is kind of like asking, can you build this out slowly, little bit by little bit, or is it better to do the whole thing all at once so Google gets the full picture, not pieces?
You can certainly build it out slowly. Um, I I have always been, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I have always been the type of person that, and I talk about this in my own training where I talk about the reveal. So there's an initial spike or an initial jolt that, and Carolyn can even speak to some of this as well, but there's an initial uh, period of time where something is revealed to Google. Um, and it's kind of like, when you pull back the curtain, how much glamour do you want to reveal to Google all at once? I like to kind of hit them with everything because my objective with a lot of this stuff is to go for multiple rankings and multiple coverage and the multimodal content consumption model. But there's nothing wrong with starting, excuse me, with this more simpler implementation. Excuse me, sorry. And you can most definitely build this out rather than facing, okay, I've got a 3-page template and I know it's a 3-page template. Um, for me, this is a very simple template, but um, the bottom line is this allows you to properly tie in and organize and present to Google the things that are present within that Google Drive folder, where before you may have not done any of that at all. At the very least, you should be making sure that your Drive folder, um, obviously it's going to be public if you're creating it through like BLF or something like that, and that's great. That's what you want. But you should also make sure it gets indexed. And Carolyn is working with a very, very good indexer, so I'm really excited to see that come out. Um, um, so yeah, that's a good question. So Fitz had, how would you work with a Google Drive folder that has many different G sites with many other niches? You can handle that through the has part aspect, but typically what I'm doing with this is I'm keeping this centric to one particular build. Especially if it's a situation where you have, like, I don't know if you have that drive folder for multiple clients or if it's just one client with multiple topics. I like to keep things very singular centric, singular focused, because usually how I'm using those in other things, it would be detrimental if I had any sort of confusion. So I like to keep things very, very concise and precise in terms of the topicality.
Very
Um,
segmented, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm building a folder for one particular purpose, one particular topic, one particular client. Um,
Makes sense.
and that's how I do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yes, so um, the nice thing about having the individual sections, so and this is where using schema.org as your guide will also help you understand what is possible. At least it'll give you a basic understanding of what is possible within each one of these sections. So, this by far is nowhere near as robust as it can be, but it's more than sufficient for achieving the objective of what we're trying to do with this template for this application. So within website, you have many opportunities to correlate that back to your entity. Map, like all of this types of things. So map is nice because you have the place designation, which then again correlates back to your entity. So the same geo coordinates because of the place, etc. And then digital document is very useful because that also allows you to tie in the author and the creator behind the content, and on and on. So the end result is you have a way to properly insert that um, through one of the iframes. This isn't the only one, but this is the one I like to use because it's a minimal of hassle. Okay. And again, you guys will get a copy of this. So, and I realize, you know, there may be more questions around this, and that's fine. Okay, so I want to, we still have a big process to go through. So I hope you guys are okay with me just continuing to fill your ears.
I do have a hard stop at my time, 6:30, which is 3 hours and 15 minutes from now. So go for it.
I think we'll be able to manage.
You think you can make that one? Okay.
I have a, for me, I have about 45 minutes. I can, and then we'll have to kind of wrap it, but I'll do my best.
You're good.
Okay, let's get to some actual implementation. I'm going to teach you something that is something that that we do internally in our group. We've done this for a very long time. I think I'm the original creator of this method. I'm pretty certain of that. But regardless, it's something that is very useful to do for when you're creating your mind maps. So we'll call this bonus number 1 because you showed up today. I'm going to show you how to exponentially increase the power of Google My Maps using schema insertion. So does anyone currently use or even know that you can utilize schema directly inside of a Google My Map? Does anyone use Google My Maps?
Nobody's
They
answering.
they go in and out of indexation. Right now they're a little less.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. But as an entity element, they're very useful because of what you're able to curate. Okay, awesome. So it's kind of a mix. Great. In an earlier iteration of Google's local algorithm, this one method triggered a maps result from nothing, and in some cases, an entire knowledge panel. We used to use this for local clients. Well, we actually still do, because this is actually one small part of our surge process. But in the good old days, you know, a few years ago, you could do this one thing and trigger them in the 3-pack. It was a lot of fun.
Them are the good old days, right?
Yes, but it's still very, very useful for what it does for you in terms of as an entity element, as I like to say. So what do we need to execute? It's pretty simple. We need Google Earth Desktop. We need to be using Google My Maps, and we need a local business schema built out specific to your particular brand, but especially with the geo and place information. Okay, so let's demo. So I'm going to show you this process. So we have Google Earth Desktop, and then we have Google My Maps. Okay, and I will mention that when you go to build your Google My Map, make sure you're doing this inside of the Google folder. So when you're in Google Drive, let me just stop sharing just for 2 seconds. 1 sec. Sorry. There we go. Okay. Okay. Where are my controls? There they are. Great. So yeah, don't go directly to My Maps and do, you know, create a map. I'm actually on one more screen inside, because otherwise I'm showing all the My Maps I've got. But what we want to do instead is in the public Google Drive folder that you've created using one of the Ranking Factory tools, you right click and you go under here, more, Google My Maps, and you want to create it that way inside of the folder. That way it automatically inherits the public permissions and
Oh,
everything else.
wow.
So that's the better way to do it. So let's go to Google Earth and I will show you how to do this. It's very simple, but it's very, very, very good to do this. Now, there's an advanced application of this using Google Earth Online, where we do a series of individual layers, and that also gets the same sort of treatment where that can be directly injected into my map.
I mean,
But
layers are pretty good.
they're really, really powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many people use layers? Give me a yes or a no. I mean, it's pretty powerful. No?
Yeah, I thought that might have been
Yeah.
it might be a good idea for a module, inside of maybe RFR v3,
Yep. No, absolutely. I mean,
something like
I
that.
started to make a course on it and I got
Oh, right
sidetracked.
on. Yeah,
Yeah.
good stuff. So this works best for address visible businesses, but you can use a version of this for SABs. But just to illustrate the method easily today, I'm just going to use something that we know as an address visible. So we'll bring up our good old friends that we usually like to use and abuse. You bring up your business, you search, and it should go down to where the pin is, and you're going to now there's other things you can do in terms of setting like a default view. You can go to Google Street View. You can change the actual view. Instead of a top down, it can actually be looking at the door with the address. There's some advantages to doing that, but for right now, we'll just do this simply where you right click and, oh, why is that so small? Okay, save to my places. I don't know why it's doing that, but there we go. So here it is, right? This is now a layer within Maps. All you're going to do is right click on it, and you're going to go Properties, and before the closing HTML, you're going to paste in your schema. So I'll just use anything. How about we do our event schema just as an example? We throw that in.
Dude, you're ridiculous. You know that?
So we paste that in, and now that is part of here. So we hit OK, and just to prove that it doesn't go away, it's still here. Okay. And then what we do with this is we right click and we go save place as, and you want to save this as a KMZ. Okay. Let me just save this somewhere where I can do this. KMZ. So you're just going to save that on your computer somewhere. Okay. Then let's do this. Let's go back to our My Map. So the first thing we like to do when we set up a My Map is, whoops, is try to type properly. So let's bring our actual business in first as the first layer. Okay, add to map. So now this is the first layer. So we can do a bunch of stuff to that. But in terms of what I want to show you specifically for this here is we're going to click add layer, import, and we're going to upload. So let me just bring this over.
Now, is that a
Select our,
layer on top of?
yes,
That's an overlayer on top of the first one, right?
yes.
And how many times can you do this? Yeah, I
Um,
know the answer is infinity.
no, not infinity,
No?
but you can do several. Yeah. I'm just trying to remember the last time I tried to limit it out. I think it was around 10, but I would have to go and test that again.
Well, I call this my weather airport stacker where the planes are stacked up and they can't land. So if you think about, how airplanes are stacking and stacking up, but they're all going to the same place, which is they want to land, you can literally do the same thing with this. You can make a layer on 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 a layer and drive all of that down. It's insane.
Oh, yes. And then you just want to edit the name to take the .kmz off.
Yep.
but now you've got this layer. So you can see, you've got this information that's coming through here. I typically don't get rid of this. I just kind of leave that as is, but it goes without saying with any of this type of stuff, you want to make sure that you're adding other things. So, Google Drive. So you can add certain Google Drive assets to each one of these pins. It goes quite deeply. We add things like our YouTube and whatnot, but the other thing, and that's essentially it. That's now I've imported this layer directly from Google Earth with the schema insertion, and that adds a whole ton of relevance to the particular local area.
Yeah.
The other thing that you can do with this, which is something I will just briefly show you, but we're not going to do it we're not going to do it as a DFY sort of thing. This is something that you can do where you can export the data to a CSV. So that can go into a Google Sheet, and we can do some fun stuff with that. So there's multiple ways to utilize that.
Well, one of the
But
other
that's,
things, Daryl, when you were there,
yes,
when you go back to the layer, it allows you to import videos,
yes.
right? So if you're optimized with your videos, your content, it allows you to import images. So if
Oh,
you have all
yes.
your images optimized and everything else and you put it in there. Now, maybe not anymore, but the last time we tested this, it also allows you to add content, right? So we went and scraped the entire Wikipedia for Obama and put it in there and it took it. As an
I love it.
example. Not saying to do that, but I'm just saying, right? You're spot on. If nobody's been doing that, it's amazing what it happens.
Well, because you mentioned it, I feel compelled to show you what we do for some of our images. Uh, let me just quickly show you something. Hold on.
This is an extra bonus, so make sure when you donate to our charity that you up your donation.
Okay, sorry, one sec. I wasn't, hold on one sec. Sorry, I wasn't prepared to bring this thing out, but I'm going to show you anyway. So,
I like what Tim said. Gotta jump. Any handouts?
oh, you know what? Okay, yeah, that's okay. That is my laptop. Okay, I just need to load something up super quick, but I'm
Cool.
going to show you what we do specifically for images, Patrick.
Sure,
And these
absolutely.
live in the Google Drive folder. Um, and these contribute largely to what we are doing here. Okay, good Lord. I think I'm just going to have to go and look at one because this was all on my laptop that I did before. What's one? Let's do this here.
Carolyn, you having fun yet?
Okay, I'm going to have
I figured you
to.
would be.
We haven't gotten to actually the main thing I was going to show you today, so I got to pick it up here. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
But this is going to be the big takeaway for you. Just hold on one moment. I'm going to literally go
Yeah.
right into this GBP. So one thing I do specifically with images is,
You're not sharing.
yeah, I'm just about to.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe I forgot.
No, it's all good. Okay, so this is something I use. I use a tool called Visual Watermark. Um, I get the Pro license. It's pretty low cost, really low cost. Um, but essentially, what I'm doing is, some of the optimizations that we do on the GBP, we fully build out the products. Don't forget things like Q&A and that also dovetails into things like people also ask. Um, there's a whole host of things that you would do within there. But what we're doing with the images specifically through visual watermark is, as an example, see if I can bring that up. There we go. So I am embedding a few different things. I'm embedding a watermark of their logo. I'm putting all the NAP information in here, including the GBP categories. And then I'm putting a QR code here. And the QR code I just generate from like the free QR code generation, blah, blah, blah. But this QR code links specifically to the long link of the GBP. So it integrates the relevance. If I'm not being lazy, then I will bring up Adobe Bridge and I will insert. We have a specific schema that is designed around image and place. So we have it goes far beyond just lat and long. It's a whole treatment indicating that that this is relevant to this this particular entity.
Yeah, we kind of do the same thing with Metadata Factory.
Yeah, and that's what I love about that. It makes that much easier. So we you can use either, but I would say Metadata Factory helps you even take that. Well, it's probably an easier implementation. I'm just so used to Bridge. I've got templates and everything set up in there, but absolutely. And then what happens is these images typically will rank very easily in image search because, again, with everything that I'm creating, just know that I'm also backing that up with some form of traffic. So these are typically, if they're not indexed yet, they're getting a direct visit, and then either programmatically through the layering, like the CSS selector, where we're integrating this in. We're clicking through QR code and things like that. But don't forget that if you guys are not familiar with this, but if you go to the Google Vision API, right, try it. If you were to put one of these images, sorry, come on, guys.
It just reads everything.
Oh, for crying out loud. Okay, I'm on the wrong page, but I can't find it right now.
That's all right. We get your point.
Yeah, but if you were to drop one of these images inside of that, it will specifically pick out all of these layers, and it will know that this is a QR code.
Yep.
So it's
It actually
something
reads it, doesn't it?
It does. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, it definitely understands that this links out to what it's linking out to. But
And like
that's
what Richard and I do, we put the phone number in there as well.
oh
And we
yeah.
put the URL in there too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, I love it. Love it. Yeah, definitely. No, that's cool. Okay. That is the little mind map tip. So
Great tip.
let's now move into bonus number.
There's the link. Carolyn put the link in the chat if you wanted to pull it up. For the vision.
Oh, here it is. I'm sorry. Yeah. Under demo. Yes, here it is. So just drag and drop. You'll see that I'll just put this link in there for you. Okay, good. Oh, you already got it. Perfect.
She's got it in there.
Awesome.
Well,
okay, right on. Let's this is probably bonus number 3 actually now. My final lesson today, I'm going to show you something that we do internally on our team called Advanced Topical Hubs. This was originally presented to our mastermind group back in late July. So if anyone is from that group on right now, please don't get upset with me.
it's for charity, so don't get upset.
Yes, yes, and we have to be very nice to Patrick and Gary because they've been very, very good to us. And as a bonus to this group, I'm going to share it with you. Time to level up. Okay, let's go deeper into what I call advanced topical hubs. These are off-site builds using Google Sheets that support the target category you wish to amplify or correct for your entity. Now, this is only one way to implement this. There's a few other ways that we go into in our mastermind, but along the lines of keeping simple and actionable, this is the version that we're going to review today. It's a fairly simple process, but very useful when you're trying to amplify the types of categories that your particular entity and brand is synonymous with, or you wish to become more aligned with. And this is one more use of things like Google Sheets that's useful in this way. So simple in their execution, they lend power to the entity from an off-site source, which can then be integrated into existing methodologies such as RSS and maps. And don't forget, they can also be one of the attachments in your calendars. And
What happens to an attachment in a calendar, Daryl?
many good things, especially if you now apply the digital document treatment through Schema, that is going to happen. So we're going to be using AI, Google NLP API, Backlink Factory, and GBP POI Factory to build a specific Google Sheet for this purpose live today.
Wow,
So
I think we just better, I don't know if you ought to show all that. Okay, go ahead.
I'm
Go ahead.
starting pretty late. I was supposed to do this like 35 minutes ago, but we
We're
were
good.
having so much fun with other stuff. So I don't think anyone's going to get upset if I keep pushing.
Yeah, I don't think so. Oh,
Okay,
what did I do? Okay. Yeah,
I'm
keep
going to
going
have to be a little bit more
fast.
brisk. So let's just go for it. So I'm going to bring up um, Backlink Factory. So as an example, let's keep picking on our auto repair guys in the local town here. So let's just call this auto care. I already have a folder called that, so let's call it technical repairs, just as an example, right? We don't really care too much. It's the method I'm showing you. This is just to get a sheet. I really don't care otherwise.
And why, but for the people who don't understand, why is it that you're doing it to get the sheet?
Because I want that sheet to be created inside of the public Google Drive folder and thereby inherit the public permissions where we can just go afterwards and edit the sheet rather than creating new. So this just accomplishes two things at once, essentially.
Cool.
Okay, so
Thank you.
go, let's just let it go. I think because I already ran it earlier, I just have to
There you go.
redo it,
There you go.
just super quick. Here, let's just reload it just in case.
Let's see, 38 people here. How many people here do not have Backlink Factory tool that Daryl's about to share with you? Just say me, 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 me.
Oh, I hope not.
Oh, some people don't. We got some new people here. What software is this? John Quack says.
Love it. You
What
are
software is this? You're funny,
banned.
John. You are banned, buddy. All right. Bernard, I think you should have it. But okay.
Okay, it would help if I hit the right button. Good Lord. Sorry, guys. I was hitting the translate.
Oh, well, we can do that too.
Yes, we can. Yeah, I used to do an awful lot more of that. I don't do too much of that now, but yeah, we used to do a heck of a lot of that. Okay, great. So what that has accomplished is it created our folder. It has created our file. So that's really all we need to do with that. Whoops. That's pretty silly. Sorry, guys. Too many windows, too many millions of things going on here. Okay. All right. Let's do this again. Okay, so this is where we're going to utilize something called the Google NLP API. You can use this API programmatically. Quite a while ago, I had a tool coded so it would give me a fairly simple front end to be able to run these queries against the API. This is the one thing I can't provide to you because it's proprietary, but it's not difficult to utilize this API. And I'm sure, maybe it's something that Patrick might want to talk to Chris about integrating, because literally it's just a matter of, it would be a fairly simple module to enable.
Cool.
Yeah. And then you just insert your own API key and away you go. But what we're using this for is we're looking at what classifications Google has assigned to competing entities for a particular query. So we look at competing entities in local maps that we're trying to compete with. We're looking at those same entities, whether they're a competitor or not, for understanding of where we need to produce topical content to support our particular entity if we want to rise above and be synonymous with those queries as it correlates to our particular category or what we're trying to enhance. And this relation to what we call salient scoring will determine how we structure our sheet into respective tabs. So the data we get back from these queries will guide our hand in terms of what we're going to put on our Google Sheet. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this. So this is the tool that I had queried, and we actually have two pieces to this, but the one we're going to use here is this one, Natural Language API, and it's really this piece here. Well, it will actually pull out the entities and the categories that Google has assigned, and this is also one way to determine whether or not your particular brand that you're working with might have some issues. Like, let's say they're a roofer, but their primary category for some reason is coming up as let's say, I don't know, accountant, or just something completely off. We see that often with things like expired domains if you repurpose something that way. And it just gives you an idea of where you might need to reposition, right? So this is pretty easy. I just enter my API key. Let me just make sure that I've done that. Good, that's good. And we're just literally going to enter the URL of the website. So in this case, let me just bring up, and we'll do this a couple ways, but I'll do it a little bit quicker than I normally would. So let's bring this up. Okay. Yep. Don't need any of that, just the URL. And then we hit analyze. So what we're hoping to see as far as the category is we want to see an alignment with almost, as high of a confidence score as possible that aligns with the type of business that we have portrayed and we're working with. So this is essentially what we want to see. But then under entities, this is where we start to get some of the other information. Often when you're examining things like salience and you're using things like the Google NLP API to determine categories and what they've assigned to the entity, and things like the machine ID, sometimes we'll see the top category or or the only top category is actually incorrect. So like I was just mentioning to Patrick, if if this was not autos and vehicles, maybe it was home and construction business or plumbing or something like that, then that would be a potential issue, right? It's a good example of where you may need to make some of those adjustments and corrections. And it follows along the lines of the entity establishment vein, where you're trying to do things in a correct way to not only portray a certain expertise and topic relevance to Google. This whole thing holistically plays into our larger processes, using things like RSS feeds, and having an additional asset like a topical hub is a very good addition. We call it a static element or an entity element for your master feed. And when these feeds are topically aligned and gather many forms of content, which supports what I said earlier about the multimodal content consumption, you add CTR to all of this, and it's dynamite. One thing we talked about at our event, Carolyn will remember, I talk about the confluence or the synergistic effect of having this multimodal content consumption model aligned correctly across the categories in terms of how that correlates to your entity and categories and geo area. It is very much a 1 + 1 = 3 effect. And I don't know how much testing you've done around that, Carolyn, or how much you've seen, but I really want to talk to you about diving into some of your data in terms of how that's playing out. But yeah, I
So someone's
digress.
asking me for to kind of like explain a 10.35 on the top one, or number 13 down there, a 1.4. What's the variational difference between those and the keywords that's associated with it?
Oh, so this is salience is a numerical scoring in terms of the different topics and subtopics which are contained within um, uh, just how that the entity plays out in terms of what type of terms they've been able to extract. Some of that is categorical, but it gives us an idea in terms of the higher score, where we can focus some of our attention
Oh,
and
I see. So
correlate.
like the top
Yeah,
one that's is a 10.35, or let's go this the one in the middle, 4.57. That's something you should concentrate on because you want to get a lower score.
you want to get a higher score
Oh,
actually,
higher
and
score. Okay.
this is where you're not just going to scrape everything and use it, like the fact that
I
some
got
has
it.
a 10.35, that
Wow.
just that can indicate that that is being picked up in a lot of different areas.
Mhm.
But where I'm looking to kind of cherry pick here is, I get an understanding of what's showing up inside of the category and the overall topic that's assigned to the entity. Um, and things like repair shop, auto
Mhm.
repair, automotive maintenance,
Mhm.
vehicle repairs, truck services, that can give us a bit of a guide in terms of how we're going to build our sheet.
Right, right.
But it's not necessarily our entity that I'm caring enough about. It's where I'm seeing, especially if you've got a situation where you're not in the top 3 and you're going to look at the top 3 results through this tool and understand where you might need to craft um, your
Right.
topical hub sheet along those types of categories. So
Gotcha.
if we were to look at an example, I'll just choose one, like let's go auto repair Chilliwack and just get something that's fairly local. Um, let's do this one here, and I'll just literally get the website.
While you're doing that, Shonda has a question. Is this a proprietary site or public? Um,
This here, this is
oh,
a tool that I had coded for my use.
oh,
Um, but this
so,
API, like if you were to go to Google developers, I see if I can dig up the URL. They give you instructions on how to utilize it. Um, and it wouldn't be difficult for a programmer to build a similar front end. So
right.
let's just do this here. Okay, so what's interesting about this as a competitor is you can see that the confidence score is a 58 for essentially the same category. So that can indicate that they may have some problems in terms of their focus, as
Brand
well.
awareness, maybe brand
Yeah, they
voice.
could have
Yeah.
some entity pollution going on.
Mhm.
We don't really know until we kind of dig into it a little bit more. But
Beautiful.
essentially, we're getting an idea of where we need to kind of look at. So to keep this simple, like, we've got, and actually, now that I'm looking at their list, I can see where they might have some issues here because a lot of their top scoring items are fairly broad, fairly generic. It's only when you get down to auto repair shops that's a very low score. Warranty approved.
EV certified, maybe.
Yeah, things like that. So that's kind of where we're using that
Yeah.
query in Google's own data to kind of guide our hand.
Perfect.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
Um, now kind of given that, we can go to GBP POI to gather variant data for not only our own location, but also add some additional driving direction data from category related competing locations. So this is where you're removing some of the guesswork because you have now previously queried and got an
Mhm.
understanding of, okay, let's say 5 competitors are scoring or have a very common profile. Um, I want to include some of that in here, but also don't forget these categories as well. So vehicle parts and services, as well as the variants for the geo area. So let's bring up this here, get rid of that. And before I do that, let me,
Just so everybody knows, he's using POI factory tool.
yes. So let's just go into the folder
Yeah.
and you can see public on the web. So that's what you want.
Mhm.
Let's go into the sheet. Okay, and let's say that we've identified, usually I build this out with say 5 to 10 tabs, but today let's just maybe do, whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Sorry. Um,
Go to one
yeah,
you already built. Yeah, there you go.
yeah, no, let's just duplicate this because we really just need to create some tabs. Let's just do 3. So we have this branded. Um, let's do this one. Let's rename this. Let's call this, I will rename this. I'm just giving this something right now so I can,
But while you're doing that, Chris is asking what happens if you're trying to do it for an SAB. At some point, you could.
you would still go with brand and you would be utilizing more of the city. Um, the things like the driving directions and whatnot wouldn't be as relevant, but we still don't care, because most of the data that's going to be present in these tabs is going to be generated a different way. So I'm going to show you that specifically. But when it's an SAB, um, I will still have the link to the maps listing present in the sheet, and I'll still have the um, the NAP data, sorry, without the website, and just as much of that as I can get in there. But it's a little bit different in terms of how we structure that. So, um, the Google Sheet, how many tabs we create will be dictated by typically what we get back in search. Um, you know, Using the POI factory, it helps us integrate some other relevant local data. That helps us support the entity in terms of things like driving from points of interest, which are validated. Um, keyed to the same types of searches and queries and categories, so it all plays its part. The salient scoring, what we're looking for is kind of main categories. So you're searching using competitors and maps, getting their top salience categories. So it gives you kind of an idea of what's going on. But essentially, once you've kind of got an idea of that, what we do is we then go to ChatGPT, and I'm creating a version of this, but right now we use this GPT. It's called Semantic Content Explorer for SEO. By this Thurindu guy. Hopefully I said that right, but so be it. And there's a series of prompts that we use to get the type of data that we're going to insert in our Google Sheet. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm just going to copy and paste my prompt. And it looks like this. Let's explore the topic and entity. And this is where you'll insert one of those categories. Of particular interest is the subtopic of the following. So this is where, you've got your top little category. So what I mean by that is this, right? So let's just kind of build this as we go. Right, that. Of particular interest is the subtopic. So this is where we have things like repairs, although I'm going to make it a little more specific. So auto repair shops. And I'm taking this exactly how it's listed. So let me just auto repair shops. I don't like it all capitalized. Hold on. Certified inspection facility. Yeah. Warranty. So as an example, right? Okay, so what's going to happen now is it's going to go through this process. So you can see it's generated this whole thing. And it'll generate a CSV and a visualization. I don't generally care too much about that. What I'm looking for is more of this. So just kind of letting this finish here. So this is what we're looking for as one thing. And
That's pretty cool.
yeah, and this image is something that's useful. So just let that finish and then
Is anybody amazed yet? Give me some hearts if you are. Wow. Wow.
I
Wow.
prefer actually I prefer the first response. Typically you should only do one, but let's do this one there. Yeah, good. Okay, so that's good. Now, prompt number 2 is where we get much more in depth here.
You have those prompts somewhere you're gonna give us?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Prompt number 2 is do the same analysis for the topics you identified in each entity and attribute section. So this is where attributes, entity, one at a time for each of the, let's see how many sections they listed. So 1, 2, 3, 4, looks like 4. And that creates a sub-analysis. So let's have it work on that. I probably should have done this ahead of time, but I wanted you guys to see it actually work.
Yeah.
Now my GPT around this work will also go the extra step, and it will also design the schema.
Because that's what you've asked it to do and told it to do.
Yes, not in this GPT, but the
Right.
one that I'm creating.
Right.
Building a better mousetrap as it pertains to, how our own processes play out. So while this is working, let's go and grab some of this information that we're going to need here. So let's type in let's get our business. Okay. So we've got the places data. That's great. Okay. POI tools.
So
Yeah,
do you ever use
perfect.
anything besides driving? Because I like to use, all of them except for airplane mode.
I usually don't.
Okay.
Although I don't have any issue with that, but I usually don't. Just because
Enough is enough.
well, we do some other things. So,
Right.
we'll actually do some live drive emulation. So we'll use like Michael Bose has a good tool around that through his
Mm-hmm.
Kraken,
Yep.
that type of thing. So what we try to do is if there's always a synergy in what we try to do. So if we have a sheet built like this with specific driving directions from certain locations, going in and actually doing the drives with the other
Mm-hmm.
tool to match that
Right.
that synergy is very useful. Um, it gives you another way to validate that data, essentially.
That makes sense. Makes
Yeah.
sense. Mm-hmm.
So let's do this while this is working. So let's go radius. Typically, I'm going to go about 8. Well, because it's Canada, I'll go 5 kilometers. Okay. And we're going to go competitor. So this is where knowing some of those salience terms helps,
Mm-hmm.
because we want validated and,
Wow.
and vetted data coming back that agrees with the output from the entity.
So
So
basically, you're just eliminating all the guesswork.
yes, as much as possible. We want to use Google's own data as much
Yep.
as we possibly can.
Yep.
So auto repair shops, I'll just do this as an example.
Anybody mind blown yet?
Okay, so send to POI tools. You guys know this already. Let's get rid of our own result. Yeah, that's good. Good, yeah.
And see, the other thing with the tool, when you get the embed code, right? There's a lot of stuff you could do with the embed codes with the driving directions as well on your sites, on your G sites.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Oh, one other, I don't know, Daryl, if you use this or not, but we also find by doing a weather widget for our specific location pages, helps a lot too.
Yeah, I actually do that. And there's schema for that as well.
Yeah,
But it's more integrated. It's not just a dedicated like weather schema. It's integrated into more about the place. So it's
right,
another feature of the geolocation.
correct.
Is the weather is one aspect of that. So what I've done here is keyword auto repair shops.
Mhm.
Um, and then I've just got a bit of a radius here, but basically what I want to do is just do this point to point, and we have 59 URLs. So this
Sick.
this is 59 URLs specific to, whoops, sorry,
The
specific to
entity.
the auto
Yeah.
repair shops tab. So let's go back to where we were here. Let's go back to So I'm just going to, as an example, rename auto repair shops. Okay, now we should be done. Okay. Nice. Okay, good, good, good.
You know what's amazing? Well, it's not amazing to me, but it's just kind of anecdotal is that let's see, there's 38 people here and there were 39 when we started.
Oh, nice. Um, so I literally, like, this is how easy it is. I literally, now
Okay.
for this implementation, I literally do this. So this is the auto repair shops tab. We're going to pop that in. It is extremely quick and dirty.
I think Sally has a mind dump going on right now.
Copy image. Throw this in as well.
Shit.
Now, what's cool, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but when you embed images and you iframe that embed onto another property like a Google site, as that Google site gets indexed, you can actually qualify in image search for some of the items that are being pulled through the iframe. And we've seen that many times through things like Google My Maps. So having that additional layer, so I could very easily take this image and do what I did with the Visual Watermark Pro, where I could embed a
Right.
QR code and et cetera, et cetera. Um, and that just presents more of that data if you want to
Why
sort of
wouldn't you
skew
want
that
to?
for.
Why
Well,
wouldn't you
exactly.
want to?
You definitely would want to.
Yeah, for sure. Carolyn, wake up.
So this is the output from the GPT, and now what we're going to do is we're just going to oh, there it is. Sorry. We're going to copy these URLs we just produced for this keyword and throw them in. Now, Kraken, Michael Bose's tool,
Mm-hmm.
has a specific function where it will come to a Google Sheet and you can randomize a range of cells and ask it to randomly click one and then go and interact with, continue the journey. And that is one of the specific campaigns that I would apply to this type of topical hub. But what you're doing here is you're building out each one of these pages. I could put some NAP data here as well, but I would typically do that in the description of the sheet. And you're just going to literally build out each one of these tabs in that format where you get the data from ChatGPT, you get the data from GMB POI, you paste it all into its own tab. Digital document schema becomes a part of this. It's not something we're going to do today, but just know
Okay.
that that is something you can most definitely do. And then, of course, don't forget, sorry. Where are you? You've moved it. Where is it?
SEO sexy, Andrew says.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, stupid, stupid things. You just want to come in and check documents published to the web. Generally, it will be because you've built
Right,
it within the public folder.
right, right.
But, it goes without saying, you do want to embed this on your Google site.
Mhm.
The Google site should also be part of this Google Drive folder. This is the digital document that gets marked up here. So the URL of the Google Sheet
Oh,
is the Google Sheet we just created. So
mm-hmm.
that's where those dots start getting connected.
Oh
Okay.
my God.
And then of course, embed code, whoops, right? you guys know the drill.
Some people don't. So
Now, the other thing too is with Google Sheets, one of the other things I like to do if I'm wanting to care a little bit more and spend some time is I will paste this a little bit lower down, and I will have as the very first item kind of that large image thumbnail.
image. Mhm.
Yeah, so then it's a little more branded, because if you are actually ranking these, which in many cases you are, um, from a conversion standpoint, it's a little bit nicer if someone
Right.
lands on this and sees that. But that's just me. Like, you would essentially have like the branded image, then below it the NAP data with the phone number, website, and then all of this other stuff below that. That'd be a bit of a nicer implementation. But what we've done here is we've got geo-relevant driving directions from categorically agreeing topical searches in the local area. We have the semantically related terms to the name of the tab, and then we have this here too. Now the only real missing piece to this is the schema component, but again, it's not really, because this will be handled when you implement your collection schema. And
If you right click on one on that tab where you are right now for tire rotation, if you right click inside the, yeah, just right click there. What are some of
yes,
the, what people don't realize is, I'll ask you, what else can you add to each one of these lines? Right?
uh,
So are you
yeah,
doing this? Are you inserting your notes? Are you doing comments? Are you inserting links? I mean, I just want everybody to realize that what Daryl's showing you is amazing, but you can actually take it one step further,
oh
right?
yes,
Like inserting a link to Wikipedia for tire rotation, right in that
yes.
line right there. Commenting on one of the, bringing up the link for the map, or one of the sections in FAQs on the GPB. I mean, this is just the beginning of labyrinth of stuff you can do.
Yeah, one of the more useful things you can do, all of that is excellent and relevant. And yes, I love using comments, other things for sure. Um, One of the more recent iterations of this, in if we really want to do a bigger build or really try to push a local client, is we will have individual links in a list like this, um, which will link out to a companion RSS feed for that topic. And inside of that RSS feed are we call them co-citation links that support the topic. So like a Google search, and when we co-citate, we want to include items that are very highly active and updated perpetually. So a Google search link for a topic is a good one, because it's updating multiple times a day, multiple times, every minute, right? Um, but one of the items inside the RSS feed to create that reciprocity between the source here and the destination, being the RSS, and back to the source, is the specific cell link. So you've got the link to the spreadsheet, but you've actually got the specific GID, which is this particular cell. So I like to create the front and back reciprocity, where in the middle we buffer that with schema. So you're passing through back and forth, relevance, 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 relevance. Um, but you generally don't have to do that particular, that level of craziness, but it's entirely possible. Absolutely.
Pretty amazing, guys, isn't it? I mean, it's almost to a point, Daryl, where you could spend days and days and days just going through each one of these and creating more and more and more and more and more. It doesn't mean it's going to get you anywhere. It just means that there's that many tunnels that we could go down as we find ones that are most relevant to what we're trying to accomplish.
Yes, and that is a good point, because there's busy work,
Yeah,
and then there's work that is specifically engineered to support the entity and amplify, demonstrate to Google that you are relevant in more than
right.
one way. And for the folks that really pay attention to the multimodal content consumption, the multi-entity relational vector concept, you will be highly rewarded if you actually start thinking in that manner, because there are specific Google patents that talk about that specific way that Google prefers to consume content and understand the topic. It's a reason why in all search, they display certain things. If you do any sort of a search, right? Let's just go auto repair, whatever, they will tell you,
Uh-huh.
whoops, they will tell you the things that they prefer to see for that particular query. And you can do things if you're, that's another thing I should mention. If you don't have access to an easy way to implement this type of solution with the NLP API, you can kind of hack your way through it by looking at what shows up for companion searches. And one of the big ones is images. You'll see along the top here
Mhm.
categories that show up that are relevant to that top level sort of bucket. And then obviously you're going to sort and filter as is appropriate, but it's a way to determine. But for any one of these queries, they'll show you the types of content that you should be paying attention to. So that you should have images, videos, you should have maps.
What is under tools? Right, there you go.
Oh, that's if you were to modify the search,
Oh, okay.
modify the criteria. Yeah.
Carolyn was asking, the cell link is in the RSS feed from earlier?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, because that RSS feed is specific to that that sort of subtopic within the sheet.
The other part, Daryl, about what you see at the top of there, and I mean, this isn't like been there forever. It's not super brand new,
Mm-hmm.
but if Google is telling you, near me, within a mile, open now, right?
Yes.
That means that everything, if you click on open now, you're only going to get places that are open to talk to, right?
Yes.
You don't have to search for top rated. It's telling you who's top rated price. So those tabs up there right now are becoming very, very valuable in terms of what people are searching for.
Well, exactly. And pay attention to these types of things, because these can work into some of your queries. So within the optimization points in your GBP, inside the Q&A, these are the types of things that you want to integrate. People also ask is one of them,
Yep.
but also the types of things that Google's willing to show modifiers for. So the near me, open now, nearby, top rated.
Look at the news. What's the news one? That's pretty interesting. The top news.
Here?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You go into the news and find out what they're doing, and now you got a roadmap for where's the news coming from.
Well, we use the news query URL as one of the things in our RSS feeds,
Right.
because it's a really good way to pull some of that topicality. And within the RSS aggregator, like RSS Masher, for instance, you can apply filters. So, if you don't want, and you would vet this beforehand, you would look at the types of queries that, and the data that's coming back for these specific news searches. And if there's data in here that you wouldn't want included, like let's say a competitor is really smashing it and they're
Right.
showing up in Google News a lot for their query, you could filter them out because you don't necessarily want yourself associated that way.
Yeah. Right.
Um, there are exceptions to that if you're doing things like machine ID splicing and whatnot, but for this purpose, no. Yeah.
Amazing what
But that's what
Google tells us, and we just
that's,
ignore it.
oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. But
Okay.
that's the bulk of what I got for today, guys. I really just kind of scratched the surface, but um, hopefully I've had some fun
Part two.
together.
Part two. We'll have to figure out a part two. So anyway, look up in the chat. I'll do it one more time. Right. The orphanage that we have is All Kids Can Learn International, which we built in 2005. On the if you want to go in the chat and open up the link to the donation box, I put three prices in there: 49, 79, and 99. And you don't have to do any of it.
Nice.
right? But, depending upon the value that you got here, how much would you have paid to have this information given to you? And now, so forth. So whatever you guys feel is worth helping us out for Christmas for our kids. We have right now about 200 kids in our orphanage at that site. We have 240 acres. We have 750 kids in our school. We have a university there. We have oh gosh, we teach auto mechanics, we teach home building, um, social husbandry, because in Africa, that's a pretty big
Mm,
subject. We have our own hospital, well, mini hospital as well.
that's so cool.
And we have an agricultural center, we have a restaurant, we have a truck stop. So we're about 70% self-sufficient with what we do and our donations. We have a lot of churches that donate to us, as an entity. So we've been around since 2005 when my friend Benedict and I first went there with our wives. And we've been hanging out there for quite some time, and we run about $1 million a year budget. So there's lots of photos on the website, Joanne, on different pages of the website. But it's a pretty amazing place. And when we first started, we were in the middle of their AIDS pandemic.
Oh man.
I mean, literally, 35% of the entire population actually I think it was a little higher than that, was under the age of 14. Because all the moms and dads and everybody back in those days, they were just dying of AIDS left and right.
Mm,
So
that's
it's a
that's not good.
pretty
Not good
cool
at all.
place, man. We love it. So anything you guys could do to help us out, we appreciate it. And Daryl, thank you for kind of being here with us today. And oh my gosh, I'm sitting here talking to you like everybody can see me. And
Well,
giving us all this valuable information. One itty bitty little piece of information today, that somebody can glean from what you were sharing with us, can multiply whatever you can share with us multiple times. So we appreciate it from your perspective to spend your time with us today and share with us, the things that you've developed and put your hard, blood, sweat, and tears in. And I just want to
thank
thank
you
you.
very much.
I think we
Thank
need
you.
a bunch of hearts, a bunch of hats, a bunch of something, for crying out loud, you guys. Come on,
Thank you very much, guys.
let's do it.
I really appreciate it. And thank you, Patrick. Literally, without you guys, our business would not run. It just wouldn't. It would be very difficult. So I
Well,
appreciate
we
everything you guys are
appreciate the
doing.
fact that we're doing something that's helpful, and that's what our business is. We have to help one another. And Carolyn and I are working together on a bunch of stuff that she's doing, and she's brilliant. And there's other guys
Awesome.
that are in here that we're doing stuff with that are just, they're way smarter than me. And of course, that doesn't take much, but it's okay. I'll admit it. And man, I'll tell you, there's nothing better than to do what we do to help everybody here do what they do better. Right? It's just the way that it is. So
Oh, I have one more gift for you guys. I
oh,
forgot. I have one more.
is it a mug?
No, I have one more. But wait, there's more.
But
Hold on for
wait,
a second.
there's more.
Hold
Thanks,
on.
Mike, Joanne, Derek. We guys appreciate all your love and thanks. And Andrew. Oh, the template, Andrew says.
Yes, I will. Let me just check the formatting on that, and I will get that over to you guys.
Right?
Um,
Andrew's the only one that said, "Where's the template?"
so this has nothing to do with today, but this is a GPT that I designed a little while ago, and we have continued to update it. But it's an article writer specific for integrating a lot of the things that we looked at today in terms of salience, entities, uh, um, the lexical relationships between different terms. Like it's a whole treatment, but it does it in such a way that I'll just give it to you guys. You can see what you might think of that, but you're welcome to test that out. Um,
So,
Essentially, you just want to start off like just say, let's begin or let's get started. I haven't haven't put a specific button in there, but you give it a topic or have it suggest a topic around a particular category, give it an optional geo area,
mhm.
and then a content length. So I typically go around 1250, 1500 words. And the content has been doing well. It's quite robust. So see see what you think. It'll also at the end of the article, it'll also suggest supporting and companion topics so you can continue writing. So
Oh, really?
enjoy,
Okay.
enjoy.
So, Daryl, I mean, in all seriousness, I mean, dude, this is crazy stuff that you kind of went through today. And I know
We had a
we,
little mini event today, didn't we?
yeah, yeah. But, I'm almost literally hesitant to allow this to be a replay. I mean, it's just too damn good. And if people didn't show up, then hell with them. They had their choice. They had their time.
I'd be
If
okay
you
with that.
if you
I'd be
call
okay
and
with
you
that.
email me and you beg me, then maybe we might do that. Or I might take a little itty bitty snippet out of the front and use it as a trailer, and then people can personally ask me for it. Okay, Craig, you will not send them a link. You should not have been recording this.
Um,
But anyway, I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to publish this and put this out as a general link. Okay.
yeah, I think that's probably a good idea.
Yeah,
I'm
we're not
okay
gonna
with
do
that.
that.
Bernard, the name of my background, I think I downloaded this a long time ago, but I'll give you the name of the file. It's called Pexels, Pexels dash Pixabay dash 37347. I have a
So
funny background
listen,
I'll show you.
yeah.
Here's my funny background. This is what you do when you go in a client meeting. You give them a hoarder background. Say, I'm working from home today. I hope you guys don't mind. I did that once, and the looks of horror was so worth it.
Well, what would
And
be
no,
interesting
that is not my real background.
is this what your business looks like? And then the next screen is this is what it should look like. That would be pretty cool. Oh, dude, I love it. I love it. All right, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Hands up for Daryl. Love. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. I'll get with you, Patrick, on the templates. Just give me maybe the balance of the day, and then I'll get that sorted for you.
Okay. All right. Cool. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Happy Thanksgiving to all our American friends.
And if anybody wants to copy the chat, the little smiley face on the right-hand side where our chat is, if you see the three dots, you can click on the three dots, and at the top you can save the chat.
If anyone needs to contact me privately, you can go through either entityelevation.com or you can find me on Facebook as well. I'll do my best to reply. I tend to get a little inundated, but I will do my best.
All right. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for being
Cheers, guys.
here.
Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Talk to you later, Daryl.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Let me go copy the chat and I'll be gone. Somebody's garage, I know. Yeah, Danny. That actually had more room in it than my garage. So it's like, okay. I get it. All right. So I got the chat done. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Please make sure you check out the orphanage and click on the link. And we would appreciate anything at all. You guys have a good Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you later. All right. Bye-bye.
Unknown caller.